If someone asked me, "Are you living your authentic self?" I might say something like, "Well, I follow my gut. I try to do what feels right. I go after what I want." It sounds good, like something I'm supposed to say. But the real question is, does it show up in how I live? In the way I think, I feel, I move, I speak? Because it's one thing to say I'm living authentically, it's another to actually live it and feel it. I've watched people who seem to be authentic. They move and glide with grace. They speak from their heart, unfiltered. They listen like the person in front of them is the most important person. And their presence, it feels warm and compelling. But then, there's the rest of us. And I say that with humility, because that includes me. I've spent most of my life trying to be the best version of myself. The cool one. The accommodating one. I've worn a mask that looked like confidence, and I think I got good at it. You know the line, fake it till you make it. So I did. I smiled like I had it all together. I spoke like I had no doubts. It worked for a long while, until it didn't. Because recently I realized I was disconnecting from myself. Conversations felt harder. I stumbled over my words, second-guessed my thoughts and instincts. And slowly I couldn't tell what was authentically me anymore. I realized I was constantly performing instead of being present and always trying to exceed expectations. But when I kept failing and not living up to the version of myself I thought I had to be, that's when it shook something deep inside me. That's when I began questioning my own voice. I started editing myself, filtering my thoughts. And slowly, I began to lose my connection to my authentic self. I kept showing up, but not fully as myself. And I knew it. Deep down, I could feel it, that my authenticity was off. But even then, I still avoided showing up fully. Why do we avoid authenticity, even when not being true to ourselves creates such a deep disconnection? For me, it wasn't because I didn't want to be real. It was because being real meant being seen. And being seen, that made me feel vulnerable, open to rejection, to being misunderstood, to not being enough. But I've also learned this. That same vulnerability is what opens the door to real connection. To myself, to others, to the divine. Authenticity, I'm learning, is about being honest with myself. It's about having the courage to face what's real, even when life feels chaotic and far from perfect. I'm learning to show up more authentically in conversations, not just listening to reply, but trying to really connect. I try to ask questions not just to fill silence, but to pave the way for a deeper connection. And I'm learning to let others see me, not the version I think they'll accept, but the real present version of me as I am. It's not always easy. Being authentic comes with a cost, vulnerability, discomfort, and sometimes feeling exposed. But I'm learning that the cost of disconnection, from myself, from others, from what really matters, is far greater. And authenticity, even when it's hard, is worth it. So if you're wondering, am I living my authentic self? Ask yourself. Do I usually say what I really mean, or do I say what's expected? Do I express my true feelings, even if they're uncomfortable? Do I feel like I'm constantly playing a role just to fit in? It's not always easy to answer those questions honestly. Sometimes we realize we've been living for years without really checking in with who we are. But awareness is the beginning. And from that awareness comes the power to shift and to realign. So how do we know if we're living our authentic self? Our authentic self lives in the unguarded moments when we're no longer trying, no longer performing, when we're simply being who we are without effort or mask. So from today, I invite you to take your mask off. I say this to myself too. Let's start living as the version of ourselves that no longer needs to impress or seek approval. Not the one shaped by expectations, but the one that feels right, honest and in alignment with our integrity. The part of us that's been there all along. Our true, authentic self.